welcome to the filler. It's my job to fill you in on the things you may have missed or just don't know, starting with one of my favorite subjects, time travel. Not necessarily how it's done, but the effects in different types. Now, most of you know, thanks to Facebook, Twitter, and social media, today is Back to the Future Day, or when Marty McFly came to the future. Now, I'm sure most of you are seeing the same thing asked all over the internet. Okay, we're in the future, now where's my hoverboard? Well, I can tell you, sort of. It's in a different time. Yep, that's right, the one we're in doesn't get one. And do you know who's to blame? Not any company or inventors or even Mattel. The people to blame are Marty and Doc Brown, because they changed our time. So let me fill you in on the different times. There are 4 different types of times: F, M, D, and T time. Type F time is fixed time. Whatever happens in that time stays. So if someone traveled back or forward, it doesn't matter, because nothing ever changes. An example would be someone went back and met their grandparents as 20-year-olds. Cool, right? But then by some freak accident, they kill their grandfather. Then, thinking their grandfather must have been adopted, they decide to make it with the woman they no longer believe their grandma. Well, turns out they were right. That wasn't their dad's dad. They are. They are also one sick freak. I'm looking at you, Philip J. Fry. Sorry. Type M is multiverse timeline. Imagine you go back and crash your parents' first meeting. They try to have a drinking contest with your dad. He gets alcohol poisoning and dies. Nothing will happen. There is no world-ending paradox. You don't even disappear. You just start a new line in time where he's dead and you no longer exist. But it's okay, because you came from before that and you still do. So, you just can't go home. Yeah. Then there's type D, or dynamic time. This is the one responsible for us not having hoverboards. This also happens to be the timeline that's in Back to the Future. Now, I'm sure if you've seen Back to the Future, you know how dynamic time works. But for those who don't, dynamic timeline works when you go back in time and you change one slight thing. Not all the alteration has a butterfly effect, where it affects things in the future. Now, when it affects things in the future, you no longer have the future you came from, but the future that now created from that timeline. The downside to this is actually pretty well proven by Doc. Knowing your future can actually change your future. An example would be if I went forward in time and discovered that, well, we have giant cell phones again. Now, that may sound strange, but you never know. Well, going back in time, I go back and tell everybody what I've discovered. The problem is now that people know that, the people who may have built them in the first place may not worry about it anymore, and they just work on the tiny phones. Now, see, this causes a chain reaction in which we just keep getting smaller phones once again, and thus we don't get the big phones that I saw in the future. This is how it pretty much works for us with the hoverboards. We saw in the movie that hoverboards exist, so we knew they were happening. So we devoted our time to working on smaller phones. People that may have been influenced by hoverboards went on to work with other things because they thought, oh, I'm sure someone else will do it. But the problem is, everybody thought that. So you'll notice that up until a couple years ago, when people realized we still didn't have hoverboards readily commercial available like the movie, people started working on them. And now it's 2015, 21st, and we still don't have hoverboards. But here's the thing. We are starting to see them now. So, even though we change the future to where we don't get hoverboards today, we may just get them soon in the future. Hopefully, Mattel will make some awesome ones. Well, that's the filler for today. So I hope you enjoyed it. And go ahead and feel free to leave a comment in the comments about what you think the next episode should be about. Feel free to like and subscribe as well.